Drafting the Magic features the thoughts and opinions expressed by Christian Ilton, Eric Pessolano, and today's guest, and do not in any way reflect the views or opinions of the Walt Disney Company or any of its subsidiaries.
All right, here we go. Down 2 again. I've been here before. You've been there a couple times. I've got to get back on the winning track, and I'm hoping the curveball that you've selected for a show today will help me.
You don't need to get back on track. We can completely go the exact same way we're going, and I'll be totally all right with it. But yes, the show today, we're talking entertainment. We're talking shows and atmosphere in Walt Disney World, which obviously not our realm, but we've been there enough times, and I think we know some good shows and atmospheric things they do in Walt Disney World.
Yeah, and more specifically in park, right? In park shows and atmosphere. There's a lot of options here.
There really are. Like I was looking at the options in Animal Kingdom, and I'm like, how are there this many that I can go within that park, right? So there really are. And if you think of Magic Kingdom, Epcot has 11 different pavilions that could put one on, right? So there are a lot of options, but I think we're gonna have some good lists at the end of this.
I think it's gonna. Yeah, I agree with you. And it's gonna come down to, as it always does, has the judge seen it? Or maybe even more importantly, have we seen it? Because there's probably going to be some good things that we haven't seen that neither one of us know about the other that we're going to have to work with.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. I do have some favorites on my list that I'm hoping that for some reason you haven't seen because you don't stop to watch parades or anything when you're in Florida. But we'll have to see. I'm interested. The rule we threw in is going to be an interesting one. We'll get to that when we get to our guest judge in just a second. But shows have always been a good time, and we get to do that today.
I feel a little better about this one than I do with parades because I've seen a lot more of shows and atmosphere than I have parades. And yes, I know there's a lot, in comparison, there's a lot less parades than there are shows and atmosphere that are performed, so it's easier to see more shows than parades. But there's still a lot that I haven't seen, so we're going to work it out, and it's going to be fun, and I think today might be another tight battle. I think we've had maybe 1 or 2 blowouts in our previous 14 episodes, which is good. That means everything is competitive, and I think, one of the goals for us here is not just to entertain, but it's also to give people out there something to look forward to when they go back to the parks and see for themselves if they haven't seen it, and we kind of can recommend it to them to go see things. So the fact that all but 1 or 2 episodes have been that close means we're doing a pretty good job of selling it, and I'm proud of us.
We are. I'm excited about today's episode, and I'm excited about today's guest judge. We have my cousin, Hannah Hentcy, joining us all the way from wherever she may be dwelling, and she is excited to judge the shows and everything we're going to do today. Hannah, how you doing?
I'm doing well. A little sleepy, but I'm good.
Hey, as long as you can judge, we good.
I feel qualified.
I'm a little sleepy is actually my middle name. I don't know if you know that. We've never talked about that before.
Hannah, you and I have actually been to Disney World together, so I know you can be qualified for this, but long time ago. It was a long time ago. You're right. But you enjoy the shows, so why are you qualified to judge our shows episode for Walt Disney World?
Well, I mean, I was a dancer for like 18 years, so, and I love all shows, so I will literally go see any of them. Although I'm kind of wondering if one of you is going to pick the show that I really don't like, so I'm excited to see that.
Oh, good. Pressure right out of the gate. That's what I love. Yeah. And I obviously, this is another episode in which, we're not meeting in person, but I'm meeting you for the first time virtually here, and I have no idea what that one show could be. And with my track record, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to have it on my list.
I don't know if I know it either. I'm sure you've told me, but I don't know if I know it.
We'll find out.
Lovely. Okay, well, here we go. First, we got to go over the rules. Obviously, as always, you have to have experienced this show, which we learned with Erik and Parades. He didn't do much in Walt Disney World, so this will be interesting to see if he's got a list he can put together. But the other big rule for the show, Eric, is that there's got to be at least one that is not a giant stage spectacular setup, and it's got to be in your first two picks.
Yeah, Disney has what they call shows and atmosphere, so you have to take a and atmosphere within your first two picks. And like Christian said, not a big stage, no dedicated seating. It's just kind of they set up wherever, do the show, and then kind of move on. So it's nothing that's really. It might have a dedicated area where they do it every day, but it's not necessarily something you're gonna really line up for. It kind of takes you by surprise a little bit that it's coming.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, if you don't really know the routine inside the parks. So atmosphere has to be taken within the first two. I like it. It's a very underrated attraction in the park. All the parks, really. And it makes for a better environment, in my opinion. So I'm excited. To your point about me not having a huge list for parades, I actually have a bigger list for shows and atmosphere. Wow. So I'm going to be a little bit more eligible today, and I feel a little better about it.
And we are talking all time, too. So yes. There is a little bit more eligibility. If some shows aren't there anymore, but you saw them, they still count as well. So
also, to clarify, no parades, no nighttime spectaculars. Those are out because they're not shows and atmosphere.
That limits my list so much, but it's not funny. It's fine. It's fine.
Again, trying to preserve for future episodes.
Yeah, I know. So let's get down to it. Drafting the Magic, episode 15. Holy smokes, we're at 15, and we're talking shows and atmosphere at the Walt Disney World Resort. Eric Pesolano, you have the first pick in today's draft.
I do have the first pick, and I struggled with this. My list that I wrote down, usually I do it in order of what I want in order. Mm-hmm. I didn't do that today. I just picked 5 that I would like to have and adjusted for the rules accordingly. So with my number 1 pick, I'm going atmosphere at number 1. And this is probably my favorite performance. We have it here on the West Coast too. They have it at Magic Kingdom in Disney World, so it qualifies. I've seen it. I've seen them both places. I'm taking the Dapper Dans at number 1. When I actually have a story that goes along with it. When I was younger, one of my favorite songs, it's a classic, Blue Moon, right? My parents knew this. They called the Dapper Dans over, and they sang it to me when I was, I don't know, somewhere around 8, 9 years old. I thought it was the coolest thing of all time. That happened here in California, but I've seen them perform several times, and they hold a special place nostalgia-wise for me. So I'm taking Dapper Dans at number 1.
That's a really cute story. I love that.
See, I'm going to be very honest. I didn't even think of the Dapper Dans.
Wow.
When making this list. Like, it wasn't even on my radar. So it's a great pick for number 1. You walk into Disneyland or Magic Kingdom and they're singing, but you were like, both at Magic Kingdom and Disneyland. I'm going, what the heck is he talking about? And then you hit me with the most obvious pick, and it's great. You know, I was in Walt Disney World a couple of weeks ago, and they're on the trolley, the horse, carted trolley thing, because, they're not doing show stops per se, but it's cool to always see them. And yes, the Dapper Dans are a really good pick.
You got to feel good about it from the standpoint of your list has not been affected.
Yeah.
And you need it to stay eligible.
I am, yeah. So I am going to go with the strategic pick here as well and make sure that I get my atmosphere pick is number 1. And I'm going to our favorite park because Epcot is the greatest place on the planet.
I agree.
And while I didn't get this country when we were drafting pavilions, I am going to France, and I'm going to try to pronounce this. It's the Serveur Amusant at Epcot. It's the stacking chairs, the chef that's stacking all the chairs. It's one of my favorite shows, and it's always I always think the guy's gonna fall. Like, I genuinely think the guy's gonna fall every single time. But it's an amazing show.
That's kind of his goal, right? To make you think that he's gonna fall. That's kind of the French humor behind it all. Mm-hmm. So, no, I like that pick. That one came out of nowhere for me.
What do you think, Hannah?
That seriously came out of nowhere. I was like, pavilions, Epcot, okay. But I actually just saw that for the first time my last trip in January. And I was like, Oh my gosh, I was so nervous. I was like, he's literally gonna fall. Like I don't know if anyone knows this, but I'm a nurse, and I was just like, I do not want to jump into action here. Like, no.
Well,
But
and
it was a really good show. Kept me on edge.
I always thought that that one was great because it was literally just these chefs bringing a stack of chairs in the middle of the street. Like it wasn't, there was nothing set up. Yeah, there are probably speakers hidden somewhere that, the chefs are able to speak on the microphones, but it literally was just a stack of chairs. I thought it was awesome. So that's why it goes as my number one, mainly because I wanted to make sure you didn't take it. But if it came out of left field for you, then you and I have both taken our first picks, expecting it to be a high pick and realizing that neither of us had thought about it.
This has to be the first time that our number one picks were not anywhere near known for either one of us. Yep. So, hey, we keep it fresh around here. What can I say? All right, let's go number two. As I look over my list here, I am going to go to a bigger stage this time. Now, my next statement may be a little controversial. This is not my favorite movie of all time. It's okay. I enjoyed it. But the stage show itself, I actually found really delightful. And I would go back and watch it over and over again until it went away, and then it came back. And obviously right now it's away for everything that's happening. But let's go over to Disney's Hollywood Studios. Oh, first of all, Christian, because you can't see his face because we're doing a podcast, shook his head up and down while I was saying all that, like, oh yeah, I know where he's going. I say Disney's Hollywood Studios, furrowed his brow immediately, has no idea what I'm about to say. I love Beauty and the Beast live on stage. I think it's great. I love the little area it is there on Hollywood Boulevard. I've seen it a few times. I'm not a big shows person. This is one of the few I've seen 3 or more times because I enjoyed it that much. So I got Beauty and the Beast live on stage at number 2.
Wow. All right. That I was not ready for you to take that pick, but all right, there you go. Hannah, what do you think of Beauty and the Beast live on stage?
Well, I've never seen it that I can remember. I mean, I'm sure I have, like as a kid, because it's been there forever, right? But I know my sister went and saw it, and she wasn't impressed.
Great.
But she's so not like super. She's not super into shows like I am. So take that for what it's worth.
Nothing from what it sounds like on my end. I can tell you that much. We can go ahead.
I love Beauty and the Beast, though.
All right. Well, that's good. I will take that. Like Christian said, we can go ahead and add it to the list of things I've taken that our judges haven't seen. So, all right.
Oh, I'm so happy. Well, I am going to go with my second pick, and this has, for the longest time, been my favorite show at Walt Disney World. It is something that I think we get a taste of here at the Disneyland Resort, but Disney's Hollywood Studios is so great at showing you the movie magic. And Indiana Jones Stunt Show Spectacular. I know you guessed it.
I already wrote it down because I knew that's where he was going to go.
It is one of the greatest shows. I love how they stop and, talk about stunt performers and what all goes into it. And, they say, oh, well, this was Harrison Ford's, stunt man and this whole thing. Like, I love the entire setup of the Indiana Jones Stunt Show Spectacular. The fire scene at the end with the plane. I absolutely love it. It's got to go my number 2 pick.
I like it. I knew you were going to do it.
Yep.
So I'm glad that my strategy is kind of panning out right now. I love the show. It almost has an attraction feel to it at the same time while you're sitting there watching it. Hannah, what do you think about the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular?
Well, I was going to disown Christian as my cousin if he didn't pick it because I worked Indy. I mean, come on. I love the show. I have to see it every time. It's so good.
I think there's only one time that I went to Florida where I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I think.
I can say there's been 3 times because I've gone 3 times this year and they're not doing the show because of, the coronavirus. So
Right. Yeah. That is true. But it is also one of the rare shows I've seen 3 or more times.
Well, and it was one of those, and Hannah, I don't know if you remember this, like, it's been rumored to get pulled for a long time. They were talking about it for Star Wars and all these different, and I'm sitting here going, why are you taking out the greatest show that you have in the park right now? Like, I love it. I never want to see it leave.
No, it better not. Honestly, I'll be so upset.
Yeah, they built Galaxy's Edge around it, for crying out loud.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Like,
kind of
yeah, now you think.
They kind of saved it. Yeah.
Oh, so happy about it. And so that is my second round pick. And now we go to the middle round.
All right. Round 3. I'm a comedy guy. I like comedy. I like dry humor. This one, I think a lot of people don't expect to have the dry humor and to be as funny as it is.
I'm just trying to think of which, because there's a number of them that you could go with on this.
There are a number of ways I could go with this. There's a lot of people, I think, who got kind of tired of the repetitiveness of this in popular culture when it came out. I'm going to Hollywood Studios again, right around the corner, kind of, I guess on the other side of the park, from Beauty and the Beast live on stage. Maybe not that close, but, it's not a big place, so you can get there quickly. Give me, for the first time in forever, a Frozen sing-along celebration, and I'm going to tell you why. Because this is something that I think adults don't think they would enjoy when they go in there. I think their first thought is, oh my gosh, it's Frozen. I got to stay away from this. This is ridiculous. The actors they have in that show make it hilarious for adults. The jokes in there are mostly geared toward the older crowd.
Yeah,
they have all the jokes from the movie for the little ones, and it's really for them with the sing-along and everything. You want to go in there and see something that's kind of funny and charming at the same time? Give me the sing-along celebration for Frozen at Hollywood Studios. That's my number 3 pick.
I was not expecting that to go up. I will say I think I can count on one hand the amount of times I saw that show. Never saw it in Walt Disney World. Only saw it here at the Disneyland Resort. And the only reason I enjoyed it, and I will let the listeners understand this, is because I went one time. I remember I went with my cousin, and not Hannah, as it were. And he and I enjoyed it more because we were in Disney California Adventure and not in Disneyland. I will let your imagination take you where that will. But Hannah, what do you think of Frozen? I'm sorry, Frozen sing-along celebration.
I was about to ask, is it the same as the one that they had in California Adventure?
Okay, so I have seen it both at California Adventure and at Hollywood Studios. It is the same show. However, in Florida, the actors, for my money, are far and away better at what they do, and they made it funny. They made it enjoyable from, somebody around my age who is kind of over the Frozen phenomenon. But it almost made me enjoy the movie better now. Like, it doesn't wear me down like it used to. I think when I think about the experience I had in Florida.
Fair enough then, because I was like, I've never seen it in Florida because I'm over the Frozen phenomenon, but I saw it in California Adventure and I did appreciate. I remember the dry humor in California Adventure, so if they went up it there, then awesome.
It was literally an actor-to-actor thing, like who could sell it better. And I think in Florida, it was sold much better than it was here in California. It was good here in California. It just wasn't quite up to, the par that Florida is. Whenever it does come back, I do highly recommend. Just go check it out, even if you're over Frozen. Still, it almost made it fresh again.
Well, hopefully it may come back and I'll go see it.
Well, see, there you go. I think that, and that goes to a point in this show we're talking about, right, live acting. And the actors really have to set it up if it's a kids show, right? Frozen is definitely a kids theme, but the kids aren't running around the park by themselves. And Disney does such a great job of still entertaining the adults. You think of shows like Turtle Talk with Crush, right? It's very much a kids show, but Disney does such a great job keeping the adults entertained that I love what they do. Now, with my third pick, I am going to a theme park that I did not expect to go to multiple times, but I could by the end of this. And so that's kind of giving you a little hint as to what I might do later. But, but we are going back in time because this is no longer there. But Tarzan Rocks over at Animal Kingdom was one of the greatest shows. It was back over where the Finding Nemo show is now, back there kind of, I don't even know what it was next to when Everest wasn't there, but it back there, I loved it. It was such a cool time. I loved the the stunts that were going on. I'm a stunt show guy. I like the stunts
I've
more
noticed.
than anything else. So Tarzan Rocks goes as my number 3. I loved that show.
We're hockey guys. Didn't they have skate? They were roller
They had
skates.
roller
but
skates,
roller
yeah.
skates, right? Yeah.
That was so cool. Hannah, what do you think of Tarzan Rocks?
I loved that show as a kid. That was so good. I honestly forgot all about it. When you said you were going back in time, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm not going to know what this is. But yep, I support. I enjoyed it. The roller skates, it was so impressive. It made me want to be a performer for the rest of my life when I was a kid.
Wow. Okay. I've got that sentimental kick there as well. What did you ever see Tarzan Rocks?
I did not.
Oh,
no, I didn't
one.
get a chance to get over there. My traveling to Florida was stunted a little bit around the time when Animal Kingdom first opened, and then obviously it wasn't there too long after the park was open. So by the time I actually got over there, I think it had already been discontinued. So I have seen video clips.
Yeah,
it looked cool, but I never got to see it myself.
That was a good one. That was a good one. I'm happy I got that pick. Of course, I could have saved it for 5th because you haven't seen it, but it's fine.
Well, and again, that's the fun of this. I'm not going to tell you what I have and haven't seen. Really, the only mistake that's ever been made was you telling me you hadn't had a Dole Whip.
That's
Other
true.
than that,
that's very true.
Everything else has gone fine. All right, let's move on to round 4 here. I'm hoping, I really hope I get these last 2 picks. I'm going to get one of them right now. Let's go to Epcot. Again, our favorite place. One of my favorite things to do was grab fish and chips and go sit back in the gazebo in the UK pavilion and watch the British Revolution perform, the Beatles cover band. Something about sitting in the park in between all the tall buildings, right? Just like you're in London, a place I've never been, so I assume it's like that. I have no idea. Might be a little different or a lot different, either one. But watching them come out into the gazebo and perform, and a lot of the time you're out there, it's really bright and sunny. I don't think they have them come out when there's weather. So sitting out on that patch of grass with fish and chips from Rose and Crown and watching them come out, I love the Beatles. I'm taking British Revolution at number 4.
That's a good pick, I will say. Our last 2 picks, Tarzan Rocks, and now that one for you. Neither of us had seen the other person's pick. I have never actually gone back there and done that. I've heard good things, but usually I grab my fish and chips and keep walking. Of course, I keep walking towards Canada because that's the right way to go. But you do otherwise. It's fine. Not important. That's not part of this show. But it's a good pick. I've heard good things. Hannah, have you ever gone back there and checked that out?
I had never even heard of it until now. I feel like I'm currently writing a list of things that I need to do. I'm planning a trip. I mean, I don't think the world will be open by then, but I'm planning a trip, and I feel like I'm writing my itinerary right now. I'm like, okay, gotta check that out. It sounds amazing. I like the Beatles. I don't know a lot about the Beatles, but I do like them. So it's definitely on my list now.
What I'm learning is she's the target audience for the point of the show. Even though you've been to Florida, I'm guessing several times.
Yeah.
I find the things that no one's seen and try to sell it to them.
See,
I'm
there you
selling
go.
it to the imaginary person that the basis of the show is supposed to be about.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but
It's
all right.
costing me wins, Christian.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're kind of on a losing streak again, but it's fine. I am going to go into my 4th round with a pick that I don't know if it's the one that Hannah doesn't like, but I don't think she liked this show. But it was one of my favorite shows.
Well, so the good news is you're going to pick it and help me out. So go ahead,
Yeah.
you do you.
Well, and I don't know if she liked this when it was there. It has since been completely removed to build Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and everything around it. But Lights, Motors, Action was one of my favorite shows. Again, I liked the stunts. I thought it was so cool. They talked about the cars driving backwards, and then they would let you in on it and show you that the driver was actually sitting in the trunk of the car, or that they built it, the opposite way. I love the behind the scenes stuff that we talked to Dustin Geisler about in that, and that show was a very behind the scenes show, despite the fire and all the stuff that they showed you. It was this is how this works. This is how we do chase scenes. This is how we put out a guy that's on fire on screen. All that kind of stuff. Lights, Motors, Action. for my money, was one of the most exhilarating shows that you could see at Disney's Hollywood Studios.
I struggled with that because I originally had it in my top 5 and I moved it out and then I moved it in and then I moved it out again. I did like the show. I ended up finding 5 that I wanted more.
Okay.
But nope, I like the pick and I like that you were able to get it that late.
Thank you. Hannah, do you like the pick?
I actually really liked that show.
Oh, thank goodness. Oh, my
Super
goodness.
bummed when they took it out. Like that, along with the backlot tour, I was so upset when they took those things out.
Yeah.
Like you said, I loved it when they like revealed the guy was really just like in the trunk of the car driving it, like to make it look like it was backwards. And they put the guy that was on fire out. I was like, this is so cool. I love movies.
Well, and it was always great that, you know, the finale was their final shot of the movie they were making, right? And the cars coming towards you and they got the pyrotechnics going. It was an exciting show. And I get it. The Star Wars buzz is huge, and Galaxy's Edge, for everything that it's worth, has probably already made them more money in Disney's Hollywood Studios, especially because it's still open right now. And so, despite the fact that it got hit by lightning one time, you know, that whole thing, it is doing so well there that I see why they did it, but I missed that show, that behind the scenes backlot tour, that entire area. I miss that stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. But, you know, we got to move on, right?
I will say this. I'm glad they didn't take Indiana Jones out for it, though, because that was higher on my list. So,
all right. Also, you came out on the good end of
Yes.
that one. All right, let's move on to pick number 5, which at this point I'm feeling like doesn't matter for me. But I'm going to try to do my best to try to crawl back into this one. I'm going with a seasonal selection here.
oh,
Because, as I think is being figured out, I like to relax and just kind of hang out and chill. Staying at Epcot. So I got my last 2 picks because I wanted this too. It's kind of a cop-out, but I'm okay with it. I'm going to take the Food and Wine Festival series that they have right in front of the American Adventure on the stage, where they have rotating bands come in and out throughout the entire festival. And you can, you know, grab whatever food and wine selection you have for the day and hang out in the bleachers over there and watch the bands. There's usually a different one every day. Sometimes there's a different one every other set. You never really know what the schedule's going to look like, but you get a wide variety of different music and different performances. And you can almost tailor what you're eating to what the performance is. Like, you can always look up the schedule and see who's gonna play, and maybe we have a band that's coming from this country, and I can go right over there and grab the food selection from that country and hang out and sit there and watch while they perform. So I've always loved doing that. I've only been to the Food and Wine Festival a couple times, but I got to see, you know, the bands play while I was walking by. I went, oh, what's going on over there? And I really enjoyed it. So give me the Food and Wine Festival series at number 5.
that's a good thought, actually. I like that. Hannah, what do you think?
I really like that pick. I've never been to Florida's Food and Wine. I'm never fortunate to go during that time of year, but I've been to Festival of Arts, and I think they do a similar thing there. And I love the fact that you can just like sit and like chill, because sometimes you just need that break walking around World Showcase. You're exhausted, you're maybe a little buzzed or a little more. Gives you a chance to rest, kind of like sit back, relax, sober up a little, enjoy a show. I like it. Good pick.
And it's right at the halfway point too, right? Because it's right there at the American Adventure, so you get to split your journey up in 2.
That's fair. All right. It's a good pick. And sometimes I'm annoyed with the bands that are there, and sometimes I'm like, I want to hear more of this, which is just,
hey, that's life, man.
the different stylings of music, right? Like there's some music styling I like, and then there's somewhere I'm like, well, why'd they go with that?
We can do without this.
I understand other people like that styling, so I get that. So a good 5th pick. That's your final pick. You're going with that one. All right.
Yep.
My final pick is coming from the Animal Kingdom park. So I can tell you that I did do 2 from Animal Kingdom, which I could have done 3 from Animal Kingdom if you had taken some of my others. But I'm not going with the one that everyone always expects you to go with. Listen, Festival of the Lion King's great, but I love going over to Finding Nemo, the musical, and checking it out. It is the only park show in Disney, at least in the United States, that had original music written for it. There are new songs, and then you go over onto that ride over at Epcot, and they're singing that Big Blue World song, and my favorite part is when the starfish is like It's a great song, but they keep singing it and it doesn't stop. Can you please save me from this? But I love the music. I love Crush. I think that the puppeteering of Crush is really cool. So I'm going Finding Nemo the musical with my last pick.
I can't believe it lasted that long.
Really?
Making it all the way to number 5.
Yeah.
And there's a reason I didn't pick it, and I think you probably figured it out by now.
Seen it.
Never seen it. Nope. I come from a family who's, like I've mentioned before, is usually all about attractions, and there's not a whole lot of time for the bigger shows for us. Only reason I've never seen it, I've always wanted to see it. I'm sure I'll get around to it eventually someday, but I just haven't to this point. I wish I knew that I was going to start a podcast in the future, and I probably would have seen it by now, but here we are.
Oh, I'm so excited. I got it. But Hannah, is that the one that you're not a huge fan of?
No, actually, I think the one that I'm not a huge fan of would have been taken out by your guys' rule about night shows. It's Rivers of Light. I can't stand that show.
Oh, yes.
Actually, I would have gone more towards Festival of the Lion King.
Shoot. I was thinking that you didn't like Festival, so I didn't go with it.
Oh my gosh, I love Festival of the Lion King. Amazing.
I will say this, for integrity purposes of this show, I like Nemo more than Festival. So I'm not just doing that, but I was in my mind, I was like, I think Festival of the Lion King is the one that she can't stand. So I'm glad that it wasn't one of our picks, and that it was actually Rivers of Light, which we could do a whole show on that one. But it's not important right now. What do you think of Nemo?
I do really like Nemo. It's a good show. I like the point you made about it being original music. I never really thought about it that way, but the puppeteering is just amazing. The actors do such a good job. I love watching like the actors' faces trying to be the characters, but at the same time, like trying to watch the puppets is a little like interesting dynamic that you don't get in a lot of other shows. So I really like it. It's a solid pick.
Whew.
And on top of that,
there's more.
The last time I was there in January, oh my gosh, it was so great. My friend and I that I went with in January had just gotten fresh drinks from the little bar by Everest.
Yes.
And we made our way over just like last second. Like the show was like literally 1 minute from starting. And they were like, you can't take those drinks in. And I was just like, uh-oh. And they were like, chug it. And I was just like, okay. So we just chugged it, and then the guy was like, that was awesome. Here, have some fast passes. You can take this over to Pandora and go on Flight of Passage. I was like, okay.
That sounds like the greatest 2 minutes of anyone's life ever, right there.
Really
you want to talk about making magic?
Even better.
Yeah, that is making magic. Oh my gosh.
The definition of it right there.
Oh boy. Well, Nemo is one of those that. Yes.
Real quick, I just want to say, don't be running around there just chugging beers thinking you're going to fast pass. This is a one-off.
Definitely not.
That's the ultimate disclaimer of drafting the magic. But Nemo is it's a show where it was kind of like the Aladdin show and then the Frozen Live at the Hyperion show here at the Disneyland Resort, where it's not just regulated to the stage. They will actually come into the aisles, and I love that kind of atmosphere too, where it really brings the audience into the show. So that's just another point on that. I loved Aladdin when it was here. I enjoyed Frozen Live at the Hyperion. I'm bummed to see that one's gone because, yes, again, I was kind of over the Frozen, but it was a great show. Putting Frozen on a stage was amazing. So we'll get to our California Adventure shows maybe one day, but.
I will say one thing I feel better about in my personal life that Hannah brought up, that she doesn't really care for Rivers of Light. So, fun story for us, when we went to Animal Kingdom, the most recent time we went a few years ago, Rivers of Light was brand new at the time. And when I was setting up my Fast Pass Plus selections for Animal Kingdom, well, I was shooting for Pandora, didn't get it. So I did Navi River Journey, I did Everest, and I did Kilimanjaro Safari, because that's what you do when you go there, right? We ended up waiting for Flight of Passage, which was a long time. When nightfall came, everybody in my family saw out of the distance the Rivers of Light beginning and said, what is that? Because they didn't really know. I kind of handle all the stuff. And I said, oh, that's the new show. And they were like, you didn't get a fast pass for that? Are you kidding me? And they were so upset. And now that you've said that, I'm going to present this as evidence that I made the correct decision. So I feel better about it.
You did, yeah.
Well, And more evidence is that it's officially shut down and it will not be returning.
Yep.
So I don't know how many nighttime spectaculars that were built for permanence have had that short of a run, because it's only been a couple of years.
That's a good research point for me later.
There you go.
Just to go look it up.
Have fun with that math. But for now, we have a end of a show to do, and that includes Judgment. But before we get to the Judgment, Hannah, I know you said Festival of the Lion King. Are there any other shows that you would have put on a list above any of the ones we had? Oh, she's nodding her head. That's a yes. Here we go.
So I quickly scribbled a list down, not really in any particular order, but I think I can put it in order from what I scribbled down. I would put Festival of the Lion King first, Indiana Jones Stunt Show second, the Muppets in Magic Kingdom. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh, yeah.
In Liberty Square. That's such a good show.
That's a good one. I didn't even think of that.
It's really cute to walk upon it, and you just see the Muppets, and they're hilarious. It's so good. And then there's a band, I don't know their name, in Canada over in Epcot, and they play, and it's kind of like a folksy but like polka kind of band, and they're really entertaining. They're super fun. And then the Finding Nemo show made it onto my list.
All right.
I can't remember the name of the band in Canada. I do know that was another act that unfortunately fell victim to everything going on right now. They're not there anymore, but I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but that's a pretty good list.
Yeah, that's a good list.
Let's run down our picks. For me, at number 1, I took the Dapper Dans at Magic Kingdom. Number 2, Beauty and the Beast live on stage at Hollywood Studios. For the first time in forever, a Frozen sing-along celebration at Hollywood Studios. The British Revolution at Epcot, and also at Epcot, Food and Wine Festival series. For Christian, he took, I don't have the French in front of me, so I'm just going to say the Stack and Chairs guy.
C'est vrai, amusant. It's probably totally botching and completely offending the French language, so I apologize.
Maybe, but I don't know any the wiser. That's what you took at number 1. The Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular at Hollywood Studios at number 2. Tarzan Rocks, a little blast from the past there at Animal Kingdom. Lights, Motors, Action at Hollywood Studios, also blast from the past there. And then Finding Nemo, the musical, at number 5 at Animal Kingdom. Hannah, we turn it over to you. Who's our victor today in drafting the Magic?
This is really hard, you guys. I have so many notes scribbled down, like pros and cons. But I'm going to have to go with Christian for this one. Lots of sentiment in there, a lot of shows that I've really liked in the past, a lot of shows that I currently like. Have to go with it. But I can't wait to see all the shows that Eric listed.
Well, what I'm learning is I'm a better salesman than I am a drafter, apparently, with this show. I'll try to see if I can get some commission out of that. My guess is probably not.
Well, and you had some good ones on the list, but, you know, and it just comes down to things you haven't seen, or actually things that the guest hasn't seen in this case.
Right,
too.
Yeah.
But you know, it's interesting, because if you had seen Nemo, you probably would have gone higher, because you said, you know, you were surprised I went so low with it. So
there's a decent chance that I actually seen Nemo, because I've seen video clips of it, right? Yeah. That I probably would have taken at number 1.
Wow. Yeah. It's a great show. I was worried about other things, so it got pushed all the way to 5. But nonetheless, Hannah, thank you so much for joining us and helping us out with this. I figured it was a topic that you would like, and I think you seem to have had fun with it.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for inviting me, guys.
Thank you, Hannah. Happy holidays. We'll talk to you soon. Well, here we go again. You know, the comeback trail is not an easy one. Apparently, it's just all an uphill battle.
Yes, and I am excited because I once again have a 3-show winning streak. I almost call it a game. It's not technically a game, it's a show. But this was a good one, and this was a tough one because, I mean, I will say, yeah, we've seen the shows, but shows aren't the first thing that I go and try to see, and I rarely stop if something gets set up in the street. So this was actually one tough, made me had to think a bit, but I'm glad I got the W.
Should be. You now have the biggest lead either one of us has ever held in this show. You're up 3.
Yeah.
It's 9-6 right now.
Mm-hmm.
One away from double figures.
I'm all right with it. We can get there. I can get there.
You know, one thing I'm noticing about our judges, and, you know, they come from all different walks of life, but I've noticed one small characteristic that they all carry with them while they're judging on here. The difference between saying, when you ask them, what do you think of that pick?
Yeah.
Listen for it when we go forward. You're gonna find this out. If they say, I like that pick, compared to, that's a good pick. If they say, I like that pick, it ain't gonna help you. You want them to say that's a good pick.
There was something where it was like I don't remember what it was. There was some game show or something like that, and he was like, "Oh, do you really like all the things you say?" And he says, "If I say I like it, it means I hate it."
I was just about to say that, and I'm glad you could back that up.
Yep.
And I don't think they necessarily hate it. I just don't think it's one of their favorites.
But it's all right. I did have a couple of extras on my list. The Festival of the Lion King was up there, but I decided to not go with it. Voyage of the Little Mermaid over at Hollywood Studios, kind of tucked in the back. Disney Junior Dance Party all over there. Those were some good ones. Do you have any on your list?
Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact. The Tam Tam Drummers of Harambe out at Animal Kingdom. And then, I forgot to look up the name, but the drummers they used to have at the Japan Pavilion at Epcot.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Those were great also. And I think the biggest one we left out, and I do not think it's controversial that we left it out. I just think it's because of how much notoriety it has that we left it off, is Fantasmic. We didn't talk about Fantasmic, but
it's a nighttime show. You said no nighttime shows.
I did say no nighttime shows. And we left it off pretty much last second when we were talking about how it goes before. I think people were expecting us to say Fantasmic, but no nighttime shows, right? If Fantasmic was included in this, I still don't think either one of us would have taken it.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I see it, and I think it's because we're spoiled with the one we have here in California.
Well, that's true. Although, as I have stated in the past, I can drink and I can sit down at their Fantasmic. So there's a little bit of a good side there.
And that's the thing about a lot of the experiences that we're selecting on the show. It's not necessarily just what the show is, or it's not just what the ride is. It's what's my experience and what I do to make it my experience when you take part.
One other one that I had on here, and I thought this was where you were going when you said it was both here and in Walt Disney World, but technically we don't have it as much here. But the Green Army Patrol that they do in Toy Story Land, I think is great, right? It's part of the land, and the toys come out. Obviously, we have the Green Army Man show here at the Disney California Adventure side, but I like that kind of stuff too, where they really they'll paint somebody's face to make sure that it is in show with the characters that they're trying to portray.
Now, let me ask you this, because I've only seen the Green Army Men in Florida when they used to walk around in front of the old Toy Story Mania entrance.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because I haven't been there since Toy Story Land opened. So is it right. Different, or
it's a little? They do a little bit more.
Okay.
It is currently down right now
right.
for everything that's going on, but it's an exciting show to always see. So I always like seeing them walk by. It's not necessarily a thing I'm going to stop and do, but that was my backup atmosphere pick. If you had taken Savoir Amusant in the first round,
I got to learn how to say that one.
I think I need to learn how to say it, but it's fine. I'm going to have people on my back all week long about this, but I'm excited. Got the W, and we now move, Eric, to episode 16 next week.
Oh boy, I'm down a field goal. I got to find a way to scratch away at this.
Yeah, but it won't be in. You can't kick for 3. You're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Have to work on it.
Yeah, I got to get to work. I got. Oh goodness, this show's gonna come out on what? What is it? December
9th.
What is today? The 9th?
Yeah.
Well, it will be the 9th when this comes out. This is me trying to do math in my head because we record this a week in advance. But anyway, so that'll give me a few weeks. I think I'll have 3 shows before Christmas.
No.
Or 2 shows before Christmas.
2 more shows before Christmas. So the day before New Year's Eve could be your last tying it up.
The last show of the year
Literally.
If we end the year tied,
Oh my
that
gosh.
would be us. Isn't that so us?
Yeah, very.
Decide nothing.
I'm going to try not to do that, though. I'm going to try to win the next couple rounds. But it's been an exciting ride so far. Do you have any hints as to what our next episode might be about?
I do. And I think it's time that we come back out west. You notice I come out west a lot?
Yeah.
It's my home. I love it.
I've noticed that.
So we're going to come out west. And I think, and what I've noticed, let's be real, we check the numbers on who's watching the show. And our higher numbers, they come during attraction shows. So I think we might head back to attractions.
I like that. West Coast attractions, not necessarily that topic. There's going to be a little bit more of a...
It'll be fine-tuned. It's going to be very
boy.
specific.
So we'll have to get to that. As always, a big thank you for following us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and I don't think we have any other social media accounts, but if you found one of them, then thank you for following that too.
And let us know because somebody's violating our rights.
Oh my gosh. But go and follow us on there if you haven't already. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, all the podcast places. Like, rate, and review. And of course, make sure you let Eric know how bad he's losing right now.
You think they don't let me know regularly? They're doing a great job of reminding me every day just exactly how this is going.
I'm having a blast.
Yeah, I bet you are.